Our project is tilted toward a future of alternative fuel transportation. Our team, which consists of myself, Laleh Davis, and my partner Ben Ringerman, looked at alternative energy-based sales, production, and performance, as well as the overarching business problem. We also investigated the traffic and road infrastructure as consideration of that business problem. The goal was to quantify the preconceptions about alternative energy as a method of transportation and evaluate it as a system problem in the context of traffic and infrastructure. Let's begin by exploring some preconceptions about transportation and vehicles in general. Take, for instance, the American diesel truck and the electric Nissan Leaf. The diesel truck, which can go off-road, has high performance, robust appearance, and epitomizes the many preconceived notions of American transportation. Then we have the Leaf, which is compact, slow, limited to paved surfaces, and most importantly, it has limited performance and range. Which would you rather drive? Now, how about these three images of traffic in LA, New York City, and Chicago? What are our preconceptions about traffic, infrastructure, and travel? According to the US Government Energy Information Agency, on average, more than 393 million drivers each consume 332 gallons per year. With an average gas price of $3.56 per gallon, the cost of gas for a driver is more than $1,182. The market for electric cars is slowly expanding. While the most common electric cars are hybrid models like Chevy Bolt or Toyota Prius, car manufacturers are beginning to market fully electric consumer options like the Tesla Roadster, Mitsubishi i-MiEV, and the Nissan Leaf. The negative preconception with electric cars include high MSRPs, limited distance capabilities, and extensive charging time. Unless more quick charge stations appear on commuter routes, these cars' owners are limited and average about 100 miles on a full charge. However, the future is still very bright for electric vehicles. Look at the Tesla Model S, which has an electric range of 265 miles, or Porsche 918 hybrid supercar, a car with a speed of over 200 miles per hour that has a fuel efficiency which is 30 miles per gallon more than some previous models. Lastly, we have Ferrari F70 hybrid with a rumored 900 horsepower. So electric cars aren't as nerdy as some would preconceive, and the possibilities for better performance and efficiency are growing. Now let's look at how we use data mining to explore other aspects of this topic further. To address the concern about electric cars we mentioned earlier, we use the power of analytics tools and present the tableau graphic on this slide. Every small blue dot represents an electric car charging station. The blue and yellow overlays are per capita income. The 6 large orange dots are Tesla Motors' existing supercharger network, which is currently capable of charging 150 miles of driving range in 30 minutes. That is more than sufficient for daily commuting and is a time that will likely improve with increasing demand. Finally, the green dots are our extrapolation of Tesla goal to have superchargers all across the country. To find possible solutions to our business problem, we use the standard CRISP-DM model. The first step is business understanding. We have already touched on this in the previous slide, that is trying to use the tools and knowledge learned in this class to look at the future of transportation. Step 2 is data understanding. We had to decide what kinds of data and what kinds of metric and KPIs we could use to measure aspects of this problem. We chose to look at mostly historic sources comprising a 50-year span of gas prices, licensed drivers, number of registered vehicles, and fuel consumption, as well as traffic, income, and political aspects of the top 10 purchasing states of electric vehicles. We also used current lithium-ion battery prices to measure the possible current and future cost and utility of electric and hybrid vehicles. Step 3 is data prep. This consists of lots of time on Google, followed by converting KML map data, a form of XML, to something useful in our tools, and compiling historic data into a spreadsheet. Step 4. Our tools of choice were Tableau and IBM SPSS. We wanted to use visual analytics as much as traditional data mining because of how well it conveyed our findings. Step 5 and 6 will be discussed later by my partner.
For step 2, data understanding, the goal is to understand what influences the sale of alternative fuel vehicles. To accomplish this, we developed several KPIs that you see on the screen. We wanted to look at several different methods for determining what influences sales of alternative fuel vehicles. So therefore, we looked at aggregate historical fuel use and costs, along with the number of drivers and vehicles registered in the U.S. We looked at all the different types of fuel used in vehicles in the U.S. We also looked at the current and hopefully future infrastructure of traffic, as well as traffic patterns, and then finally the cost of internal combustion engines in cars versus the future of hybrids and electric vehicles. With the understanding we garnered from the last slide of the data we wanted, we went to Google to find most of our sources as you see here. I'm going to speak briefly about compiling those. First off, we had to take KML data, which is a mapping version of XML, and take the geotagging information out of it, specifically GPS coordinates. We then also had to create several different spreadsheets, and most of this prep work was involved in discovering how to make data that was actually usable in Tableau and IBM SPSS Modeler. For the first slide of showing what we modeled, I'm going to show you a slide from Tableau. This will be the first in a series of many. This slide aims to look at preconceptions. What you have here are the top purchasing states for electric or alternative fuel vehicles in the United States. The blue or red overlay is how they voted in the last election. The labels are their overall traffic rank. For our discussion on visual analytics, I want to start with this dashboard. The top part of the dashboard consists of three separate line graphs, the first of which shows the total number of vehicles registered in the United States compared to the total number of licensed drivers. The second shows millions of gallons used historically versus the cost of unleaded gasoline since 1963. The third graph shows the average fuel economy of new vehicles sold versus the number of vehicles sold per year. On the bottom left, we show a graph that describes those states which are the highest purchasing of alternative fuel vehicles. The first column of sheet 4 is the percent of total basic electric vehicle sales. The column on the right is the median income of those states. The labels are for traffic ranking. Sheet 9 attempts to reiterate this, and it adds the political overlay of red and blue states, as well as total alternative vehicle sales and hybrid sales. The next step in our discussion is to look at these states a bit closer. This dashboard presents the amount of gas wasted in the 103 most congested urban areas in the country. We've aggregated these by state on the left, and on the right we've aggregated the number of electric charging stations per state. Bottom right also shows the increasing trend in miles driven in urban settings. It is easy to begin seeing a correlation between the states with the worst traffic and the highest number of hybrid and electric sales and the best infrastructure. Briefly moving away from traffic patterns, what we have on this slide are the historic distributions of alternative fuel vehicles, be it ethanol, E85, hybrids, diesel-electric hybrids, your traditional electric BEV, hydrogen or otherwise. We want to look specifically at the green and the purple because these are the most common consumer alternative fuel vehicles. E85 is not available everywhere, but it does make up the majority of alternative fuel vehicles on this slide because this slide also represents all the commercial vehicles registered and sold in the United States. What we can see though is that despite the recession, there's been a steady increase in the number of purple gasoline electric hybrid vehicles since 2005. Now it did fall off a little bit, but there's a significant percentage of all alternative fuel vehicles are now hybrids. We then used IBM SPSS Modeler to data mine these statistics a bit further. We wanted to look at the traffic patterns again, so we decided to use a neural network and association mining. From the neural network, we see that the short-term trend has the maximum effect on ranking the states or traffic. And for the association mine, we'll notice that the states that pop up the most across all of the different population groups from very small to very large are our top states. Again, we can use this to see the correlation that there is something beyond political affiliation, income, or any of the other preconceptions about why and where electric sales happen, but in reality, the fact is that it is a function of traffic and traffic density. For our last piece of modeling, I took the historic gas price data of regular unleaded gasoline into SAS and did a time series analysis on it. I was able to estimate through the Winters method of additive exponential smoothing that by 2023, essentially 10 years from now, on a 95% confidence interval, gas could be as high as $5.25 a gallon. Below this, I'm making the economic proposition for batteries. Currently, based on research, a 500-mile battery would weigh 1,252 kilograms and cost anywhere between $20,000 and $39,000. It is from this jumping off point that we can make an overall evaluation of the future of electric vehicles. Our data mining efforts showed that alternative vehicle sales are in fact a function of traffic and not any other preconceptions. We have to remember this is a Silicon Valley type of technology, and without even applying Moore's law to it, a simple 20% improvement over 10 years would yield a vehicle 3 times as capable as the current base Tesla Model S at the same price. There are enough sales at this point to expect a continued development of infrastructure. However, it is in part still a chicken and the egg scenario. People want infrastructure before they buy, but the business case for the infrastructure necessitates more sales. As for our project, the idea of what's next would be a broader analysis of historical vehicle sales. This analysis would aim to use predictive analytics to describe the buying patterns of the overall vehicle market and determine a set of variables whereby we could predict beyond traffic patterns who would buy an electric vehicle and what it would require. That concludes our presentation. We hope you've enjoyed.